After over 25 years of marriage, we've learned that successful couples have great friendships, put each other first, and focus on light just as much as love. We believe marriage should be fun and easy.
Our goal is to share our journey with the hopes of helping others build strong, happy relationships. Join us as we continue to create our lives beyond I do.
We are not marriage counselors, nor are we mental health professionals. We're just simply sharing y'all how we navigated through our marriage. Now, on with the show.
All right, welcome back to the Beyond I Do podcast. On this episode, we have a wonderful guest with us. We have Jazzy, the mindset coach, who is a certified mindset coach, an author, a poet, a speaker, and a beautiful spirit inside and out. So we welcome you. We are so excited to have you. Full disclosure, we've had a meet and greet before this, and I feel like we're close friends now. We've missed you. We've been looking forward to recording so we can speak to you again. We enjoyed it so much. So thank you for being with us. And if you could tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your journey, and a little bit about what it is that you do now.
Absolutely. And no, thank you all. I agree. I didn't know if it was going to be weird to reach out to you all before today, so I didn't. But
look,
I indeed the connection.
On social media, we've been following.
Yep.
We've been looking at the pearls that you've dropped, the pearls of wisdom. I told you I got your book. So we just, like you said, it's the type of thing where you meet someone like, oh, we kind of hit it off, and then you're like, well, do I reach out again or do I? So we're there. We got you. I told you we're house hunting.
Yes. Definitely appreciate you all and this opportunity to be on here with you all. And it's interesting because anytime I do a podcast or any type of interview, I'm reluctant to talk about myself because my entire journey, I have realized that it's not about me. So my introduction to myself, I will just keep it cute and short. So I have been a certified mindset coach since I actually started the business of it, of Mindset Tribe in 2020, but I've actually been coaching since 2013.
Okay.
I've always been a coach. Didn't know that I was a coach, but my entire life I have been the go-to person, for advice or just people want to pick my brain. I'm always open and willing to share whatever I have. But throughout my journey, I've taught myself. So I think the main thing with mindset for me is that any of the tools that I have acquired, 90% of them I've taught myself. Mm-hmm. I had to learn how to maneuver through life. I had to learn how to deal with trauma. I had to learn how to recognize trauma, first and foremost. I had to recognize it for myself in order to see what steps I needed to take in life in order to go back and pull people in with me and say, hey, there is a dark side. Let's acknowledge that. But there's also a light side on the opposite end. And even when like my poetry, I can write about anything, but majority of my poetry is about inspiration and motivation and empowerment, just to show people that, yeah, we go through things in life, things get tough, but we have to look at the upside of it, the optimistic side of it. So my goal and my purpose, I feel, is just to, be that person, be that voice for someone else, just to show them that they too have a voice.
Right. That's the idea of that positive mindset for years for me. And I still, to an extent, I would say I'm not an optimist or pessimist. I'm a realist. And so I realized a few years back that in that realism was a lot of pessimism. And there's a way to be realistic about things and still have an optimistic viewpoint versus being real about things and feeling like you're stuck. And so the idea of a growth mindset and those things, that's something that over the past few years I've had to learn the hard way, had to do some inner work and self-reflection and be honest about myself. So I can relate to that part.
Absolutely. Even with the word stuck, like I have a few words that like are pet peeve words of mine. If you can say stuck, one of them, we're never stuck. Like we may be at a pause, we may be at a pivotal point, but we're not stuck because we have the power of choice. But are you choosing to stand there, or are you choosing to take a step forward, or you choose to take a step back? But we're not stuck. We're never stuck.
That's a hard lesson to learn. When you take responsibility and accountability for things, it's hard, but it's empowering. And so that's something that that I'm still I struggle with from time to time.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to point fingers outside of self. And sometimes I'm not as perfect as I'd like to think I am. And I realize that might be a me issue. Let me stop for a moment and think about that.
Yeah, that's a hard truth.
So within the growth and the journey, how do you get to a point where when that feeling of stuck comes, how do you get to a point to be able to pull yourself out of that?
Honestly, I ask myself, what is the bigger picture? And I always go back to the spiritual being of life and its overall existence, because we get so caught up in everything else. But what is our purpose? Like, what is the even reason for anything that we experience? So I always go to the spiritual end, like, what is my spiritual lesson? What am I learning from this? What am I gathering? What am I supposed to be teaching from this?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, and that, I feel like we're connected. We're connected to people. We're supposed to be able to rely on other humans. You're supposed to need each other and work together. And so even in that, there's still the individual responsibility to make sure you're working on self, so that when that need arises for someone else, you're there for someone else, and then vice versa.
Right.
Absolutely, because we're all here for a reason. Like, why did we connect? I don't necessarily believe in coincidences. I think everybody crosses paths for a particular reason. If not, no one would exist on earth. Like, it's impossible for us to even survive on any level without each other. It's impossible.
Right. And that's one thing, as we've been, meeting with people, and we have these amazing people from all over the world that we're meeting and talking to, a lot of the messages are the same. And I don't know if that's because we need to hear it, because the listeners need to hear it, or well, it is true. It's because there's a universal truth. And that is that we are here to help and serve, and to use those gifts for the uplifting of each other. So, and for me, sometimes that's hard. I get wrapped up in myself a little bit. But I recognize it and realize it, and then I know it's time to move forward.
I think also that's part of the journey. This is a podcast about marriage, and how do you have a successful marriage? Part of having a successful marriage is being a success individually as well as a couple. And how do you do that? And there you have to start working on the inside in order for the outside to be of value. So, I mean, that's how we help each other,
Right.
So that's why we're meeting all these individuals who are mindset coaches and spiritual healers. And, so I see it coming together. So it's not in vain at all.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So tell us a little bit about, so if I reach out to you and I'm like, look, I don't know what's going on. If I'm stuck, what do I do? How do you advise? How do you work with your clients to get them through that phase?
I have a gift of asking the right questions.
Okay.
I have a lot of discernment and intuition about myself, that I know what questions to ask to get my clients to answer their own questions. I do offer some suggestions or different perspectives, but for the most part, it is in the questioning. You have to know what to ask.
Right. And that self-awareness or self-actualization and realization, I'm sure, is more powerful than someone telling you, well, this is how it is.
Yeah.
So then I start to realize that it is me. That's a hard lesson. So then what do I do to now move forward from, okay, it's you, it is you. So now what do I do to start making steps to move forward and to get unstuck?
Yeah, definitely have to put in the work with the action. So a lot of my clients, I do suggest journaling. I have what I call, I don't like to say homework, I like to say power work, because it allows you to be empowered. It's just, it depends on the situation, of course, but definitely journaling, definitely some sort of action. You know, say you felt like you lost yourself, and I could suggest, like, in that happiest moment of your life, what were you doing? You know, you could say, oh, I was painting. You know, so I may suggest, well, today, like in this moment, go out and get you, Canva and some paint or finger paint, just something to get you back into your happy place. So, of course, it depends on the client. But after you have the self-realization, like, it's time to get to work. Like, you really have to put it into action, because you can talk all day. I can talk all day. I can listen to you all day. But then what? It's action. You have to put action behind it.
Let's see, this is what, Sunday. So this week and towards the end of the week, the weekend, I have been at the bottom end of that slump. And
Okay.
so what is it that you can suggest when those moments of, I can think about a time when I was happy, I can engage in that activity, but I'm still so focused on whatever the issue is that it's difficult for me to pull myself out of it. Do you have suggestions for how to get back to that place of being okay?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not going to sugarcoat and say that it's just a miracle pill to take and you won't still have those thoughts, but it's about mastering your mind and where those thoughts are going. So if you have a thought that you feel like you're slipping in a slump, you have to have a counter response. So if you're like, oh, I'm not in a good mood, okay, what's going to put me in a good mood? Okay. Like, maybe put on one of my go-tos is 90s music. Yeah. That was the best era, like, hands down.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
Put on some 90s music, I get in my groove. But then if that thought come back in, okay, that's not where I want to be. Let me focus back on the music, or let me do something else. And again, I stress this a lot because I am a writer. Journaling has shifted me from mood to mood more times than I can count. Now, even if you start writing and you start asking yourself, why am I in this mood? Why am I feeling stuck? Again, it's knowing the right questions to ask to get the response that you need.
Right.
Right.
As when I started with therapy, so prior to that, I wanted to journal. I wanted to be like the people on TV, Dear Diary, and you write every night. And I love journals and notebooks, and I would buy them and then start. And about, 3 days in, I'm done. I don't have anything to say. But when I started therapy, it was I journaled to learn to process my emotions. And so whenever I had these emotional phases, or even for me, there were situations where I should have felt something and I didn't. So those were the times that I would journal. So I had a specific purpose for it, and that made it easier for me because I didn't feel like I'm just writing to write. I was writing with a purpose. So that was one of the things that helped me learn how to check in with my emotions, because I had buried them way deep down and I didn't like them. So that helped me to see on paper and to process and to learn how to work with those things. So I can relate to the journaling part. That has been helpful for me.
I don't journal.
You don't journal, but what do you do?
All right.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about that. Writing is not the only form of journaling. You could do a video journal. You could do an audio journal. It's just being able to be expressive, to get your thoughts, feelings, and emotions out.
Right.
You write what?
I write music.
I'm still amazed after what, 20, I'm still amazed. We have Rubbermaid containers full of notebooks of lyrics where he writes. It amazes me that someone can have that much.
Mainly raps, but you know.
How do you have that much?
That's journalism.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It is.
Right.
Because I've gone back and looked at over my stuff, and it's like, well, that was corny as heck, but that's what I was thinking at the time. And some of my current projects, you know, and I've just started really getting back into it about 3 years ago. Just trying to learn how to make music and things like that. So looking back at the stuff, so I'm pulling some of my old stuff in and some of my current stuff. It's like, yeah, you were in a different mindset at the time. But you're right. I know it. I know it all connects. I know it all connects.
It blows my mind because not only does he have that up here to write, he talks a lot too. Good Lord, where do you keep all the words?
That is a gift. And so when you decide that you want to get back into it and start recording, please let me know. I would love to collaborate.
We'll be in touch because for our anniversary, he walks in, he says, "Come here." And we go to the car and he connects to the car and he's played a song that he had written for me for my anniversary. And then 2 weeks ago, my best friend's dad passed away, and we were going down to be with the family. And he said, I want you to hear something. And he starts playing this song, and I immediately know he's talking about me. So I start boo-hooing. First verse is over, and then I start listening to the chorus, and I'm like, wait a minute. And the next verse, he starts rapping, and it's about my son.
Oh.
And the next verse is about one of our daughters, and there's a verse for each of our kids. So it's there, and it's amazing to me how he puts things into words, and now he produces the music and things like that. So it's an amazing talent, but we're not here for him. We're here for you. And so we're just gonna put a pin in there.
Then we're gonna have a part 2.
That's right. And look, like I said, I started reading Tupac. I love him, but Tupac and we were supposed to be together. We were supposed to be together. When Tupac died, I was living with a cousin of mine, and he and I were like siblings. We were both only children. Our parents were first cousins. So our teenage years were together. And I moved in with him momentarily, and we're in Atlanta being young and free. And he walks into the apartment one night, and I'm in the living room in the dark crying. And he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "He's gone." And he said, "Who?" And I said, "Tupac." And he laughed at me, which made me cry harder. Because why are you laughing at me? Tupac. So I'm easing through it. But every time
I cried as well.
It was a beautiful soul that left.
And was people looking at you, Jack, like, what the hell is she crying about?
Was crying as well, and we was like, we have to go home. And the manager was like, what's wrong? And my sister was like, my husband died.
See, I'm like, I would think about people like standing in line when they stand in line for the Stanley Cups and things like that. And then I have to remember standing in line because when All Eyes on Me came out, it was a midnight release, and I was standing in line at the mall waiting for that CD.
And this is why we shall not judge.
That's right. That's right, because I get it. I still mourn at me, so I get it. I get it.
I was waiting so I could burn it.
Whatever.
I'm gonna get somebody else copy.
Whatever. Anywho, so you've talked about the writing. tell us about, have you always been a writer? Were you a kid writing, or is that something that you learned along the way as a tool?
I actually been writing since I was about 8 years old. And I do come from a family of writers. Both my parents write, more so my father. From my father's side, like majority of my first cousins are all writers. My siblings are writers. So I would say genetically inherited that portion. But no, I've been writing. I started writing short stories, of course, poetry. I was always that type of child in school. I loved doing essays, report, like all of that. I was all over all of that. So I've been writing for a very long time, but with my poetry, I was afraid to share it. So I didn't actually start sharing my work until 2009. And that was the first time I had ever done an open mic with my poetry. Okay. So prior to that, I just been writing, hiding. A lot of people didn't even know that I had that particular gift. Writing is it's in me. Like, I don't know how not to write.
I feel the exact same way because, rap is poetry. In my teenage years, I was in a couple of singing groups. That was like the thing. The Boys and Me and Jodeci days. Everybody wanted to be one of them, and so I kept writing throughout the years. And just like every now and then, I pencil something down, and I ain't gonna do nothing with it. And then pencil something. Next thing, like you said, I got notebooks that I can go back to and kind of just look back over. But it is a relaxing thing, and it takes you to another place. So even if you have an issue going on, it helps to write even the frustration down. Sometimes I might write the frustration itself down, and it helps to just get it out. So I see your point, definitely.
Right.
I write poetry and short stories, but that fear, my mom's passing prompted me to write a poem that I posted because I didn't have anything else to communicate at that point. But there is a fear there, and I don't even know what it is, what the fear is for me. We've gone back and forth with, we were going somewhere out of town, and so we stayed in Atlanta at a hotel because we had an early flight. And so we're sitting in the hotel restaurant, and there are two men sitting together at the bar, and we would take turns going back and forth. We had a whole story about those two men. and why they were there in the backstory. So the two, like, we've gone back and forth and played around with that, but
yeah, a lot of times we'll be in public and I might say, just pick two people just randomly.
Yeah.
And I'll say like, well, yeah, they just got done fussing about such and such, just creating their life as a story. We have fun.
Yeah.
And our son is a magnificent writer. And it's funny because he writes, he raps, our daughter sings, and she gets frustrated because all of us write and she wants to write. And I'm like, if I had that voice, I wouldn't even talk. I'd sing all the time. Yep. And people would be like, why does she do that? Because I can. That's why I don't have that. There you go. There you go. That's why I don't have that gift, because I wouldn't act right. That's why I don't have the singing voice and the body that I want, because I'm not going to act right with it. I'm not going to act right. I'm going to act funny. All right. I'm sorry. So one of the things that when you were asked about topics to discuss, you talked about spiritual healing. And I believe in our meet and greet, we talked a little bit about childhood trauma and healing from these things. So can tell us a little bit about how the growth mindset and all these things come into play when it comes to that healing journey.
Well, first, before I get fully into that, let me share how my spiritual self-awareness awakening came into play. So in 2005, I got paralyzed. I was paralyzed for 3 months. I was 26. I was a single mother. My daughter was 2. My son was 4. And I ended up living in a nursing home for a month. So I did a the hospital, and after the hospital, no treatments was working. So, it's an assisted living facility. It's a nursing home. They try to code.
Right. Make it sound pretty.
Wordy.
Yeah.
So when I got to the nursing home, during that month process is when I began my spiritual journey, because I began to question. A lot of people say not to question the higher power, but I believe that we are all co-creators.
Yes.
So in that moment, I questioned, like, what is my purpose? Why am I literally on my back? Only thing I could do is turn my head. I was paralyzed from my shoulders down.
Oh, wow.
And so my spiritual journey began in that moment, actually questioning, what is my purpose? What is my meaning in this world?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're looking at a growth mindset, anything dealing with the mindset, again, you have to look at it from a spiritual perspective, because it's impossible for any of us not to be traumatized in some sort of matter.
Right.
So it's okay. You have to ask questions. You have to seek a higher power, or understand that there is a higher power, or even that we were all created for a specific reason, like for a purpose. We all have a mark to leave on earth. We have a mark to leave on each other. So anytime we get wrapped up or get stuck, again, just look at the spiritual end of it. Like, what is my lesson? What am I learning from this? How am I growing mentally from this? Again, things get rough. We go through a lot of things. I'm not going to sugarcoat that at all.
Yes.
The way out is to stay connected spiritually. And when I say spiritually, just spiritually, we were spiritual beings before we were incarnated on this earth. So you have to step outside of yourself.
Right.
And, with mindset, it's so broad.
Right.
Mindset is broad, but it includes spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Because mindset, where are you spiritually? Do you feel like you have a purpose? Do you know what your purpose is?
Right.
Like, what mission, what steps are you taking? Who are you looking to for guidance? Like, it all involves with spirituality.
That's true. And one of the I guess goes back to everything. My cousin and I, we had started making some music when we first got together back in 95. And our very first song was called Mindset. That was the name of the song. And it was generally about, the mindset of people, and it was geared towards the industry at that time. People were talking about popping bottles and the gangster lifestyle. And it's like, your mindset needs to change, because you're going to grow up at some point in time and become a man. And you can't do these childish things as a man. So change your mindset. And one of the songs I recently did was called Mindset 22. It's like, still working on that mindset. And that's the thing, like, one of the verses I have in one of my songs is like, you're 37 wearing pants and I still see your drawers. Like, why? Why? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, at 20, that's one thing, but 37 and I'm still see your drawers. Why were you taking me through that, brother? Change your mindset,
That's how I feel when I see people like you robbing a convenience store and you're in your 50s. Like you hadn't had the opportunity to even up your criminal game. Like, something has to change.
Do better as a criminal.
Right. Like, you have no aspirations as a law-abiding citizen, but now you have no aspirations
robbing
as
folks
a criminal.
Right. You should be robbing banks or something.
I'm sorry.
They feel like they stuck. They feel like
there you go. It's
exactly.
Like, think bigger. Think big. Go watch New Jack City. Don't watch the end, but go watch how Nino shows you how to. Don't watch the end though. But like that mentality though, to think that someone, I'll be 50 in June, to think that someone my age, their idea of making it or survival is to rob a local convenience. Like, what is going on in your day-to-day life that this is the only answer? So
nothing's going on in their day-to-day life.
Right. Absolutely. Exactly. Right. And that's the problem.
They're just
that's the problem,
so to speak, existing.
And that's how, like, on a non-criminal level, but that's how I think for me, there was a switch a few years back, and it's like, I don't want to just exist anymore. I want to live. I want to take part in this.
Mhm.
And the more we explore, with the podcast and with coaching and things like that, and we're meeting these people, the bigger the world becomes, and the there's more out there than just what's right here. So and I want to experience those things. I want to be a part of those things. So I can't imagine getting up and thinking, you know what, today I'm gonna go up there and rob the gas plus.
They keep
Like
money. I know where they keep the money at in the safe.
I can't even think, like, your freedom on the line, your life on the line.
That'll get me through for 2 days.
It doesn't matter to a person who is in survival mode.
Right.
Their mindset is in survival. They can't see anything past that.
And I guess that part is the part that concerns me also, is to have, like I said, I wasn't in survival mode. I was existing, because survival mode means that, needs are not being met and I'm having to find. But I'm thankful not to be in a situation to where that's where I am, and that desperation sets in. Because I like my freedom.
Oh yeah.
And I want to live. So
I don't need. I done watched enough episodes of Orange is the New Black to know that even man, I don't need to be in there. Like Chris Rock said, the toss salad man. He talked with. We had a dude named Fleece Johnson on. He used to be on YouTube a while back. That joker talking about how he like booty in a man's butt, and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna stay.
Pause today.
I'm gonna stay.
So I did want to, we talk about writing, but I'm so big on acronyms. So almost everything I have an acronym for. So mindset, I actually have an acronym for that as well.
Okay.
It stands for mental, insight, new direction, stimulated, elevated, truth.
Oh, wow. Okay. Stimulated, elevated, truth. All right.
So explain that to us. I mean, obviously but explain that to us as a whole concept or idea.
So again, we can, piggyback off the spiritual. So the spiritualness involves, life visions. Where do we see ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
What is our mental attitude about ourselves? Like, what is our future? What is our purpose? I keep piggybacking, going back to purpose, because that is the meaning of life. Like, what is our purpose? So when you get stuck in a mindset, at some point you have to have another direction. If you want to go to a growth mindset, you have to know what direction you're going in. And part of that is knowing that you have truth. Like, what is your truth? And like you were saying, you're discovering your truth and self-awareness. It may not be what you wanted or what you expected, but it's still your truth. So all that combines develops our mindset.
Right.
Stimulated, elevated truth. We have to elevate. We have to be growing. We have to be positioning ourselves to get to higher levels in order to actually have a growth mindset or open mindset. But yeah, so I don't know. Again, I'm blessed to have a gift of words, a gift of messages, and that one day it just hit me. I'm like, mindset, that is my acronym for mindset. So you have to know what direction, you have to create new directions. And at the end of it all, you have to be able to stand in your truth.
So when you were a little girl in school, were you a nerd like me?
Actually, I was, and I was a very shy nerd. Like I knew the answers, but I did not want the teacher to call on me because I was terrified to speak in front of people.
Really? So, and when you go back to words and you're talking about the acronyms and things, and that's how I was such a big nerd. I didn't mind the teacher calling on me though, because I was that kid. I was that kid that you wanted to like, but you really couldn't. Why don't you sit down? Why
You
she
knew.
always got to raise her hand? I was that kid.
Oh, brown nose.
Yes, that was me. I was always the first one to finish, and I would turn my paper in and then turn back to walk and look and then sit there.
Even
No.
in college, I was still the same way. I didn't want the teacher to call on me. And it got to a point because we're all adults, it became uncomfortable for me even knowing the answers. Then at that point, I would lie and like I didn't know the answers because of that. It created a lot of, enviness to like, why does she always know the answer?
Right.
But yeah, definitely a nerd. Definitely.
I think I have a little bit of sociopath there because that didn't bother me. Because I mean, like I said, and the funny thing is, as a teacher, especially when I taught elementary, that kid that was my reflection, I couldn't stand them. I couldn't stand the kid that always had, why do you keep answering? We know you know. Stop raising your hand. So as a teacher, I would have not liked me, but I was that kid. And I didn't have the capacity to care what the other kids thought. So they didn't like it, but I didn't care. I didn't. When I realized they were cheating off my paper, I would write the wrong answer on purpose and let them turn their paper in.
I got smart by middle school. I would charge people to copy off my paper.
See?
I was back then.
And I would have been probably your best customer. How you figure that shit out? How you figure that shit out so fast?
And see, I would have told you because I'm smart. Yeah, I was, and I recognized the students that were like me, especially elementary school. Now, high school age, I can get with them and let them know game recognize game. But with the little ones, I'm like, oh, why are you coming over here again?
If that is not a self-realization, I don't know what. That is hilarious.
So now y'all some uppity Negroes know every damn thing.
No, we're just smart. Don't hate. See, that was me. That still is me. I'm just smart, and I'll let people know. Where I work now, in my department, I am the only person of color.
Okay.
And so because of the demographics of the school, because of the political climate, because of all of these things, I do feel that now I kind of keep to myself, and I don't, I'm not as quick to let it be known what I know or what I'm capable of because of the ramifications of those things. Which is another reason that I'd be so glad when we can make the move towards having control of our time, being self-employed, so that I can fully, express how I feel. Because now I keep things under wraps because I like to keep my job for the time being.
Let me tell you the trip part about it, Jazz. Now she's a teacher, right? So we know teachers live regular lives, just like everybody else. Had her school shirt on with, the logo on it, right? So I'm like, you want to go to the stop by the liquor store for me, get a bottle of liquor and get your wine. She wouldn't go to the liquor store.
I would not,
because she had the shirt on.
What did I just tell you?
You teaching a whole other county. People don't know who you are.
What did I just tell you?
She wouldn't go. I'm like, down.
So
I take my shirt off
at
and I
my
go.
School, and we just saw it the other day. And this was the staff, not just faculty, but the entire staff. 70% white, 19% black. 19%, exactly. There are only a handful of chips in that cookie. I love the kids.
Can go to the liquor store.
I love the kids where I teach. And I feel like, no, I don't feel like, I know this is my last stint in the classroom. and I will get to leave the classroom on a high note. I want to leave on my own terms. I work in a district where, as a person of color, and the funny part about it is I work in a district I went to school in.
Mm.
But as a person of color, you have to watch yourself.
Yeah, you definitely under a microscope.
Absolutely.
They're waiting for an opportunity.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. With the political climate now, I can tell you it's a Republican county through and through. So even with we just adopted new textbooks, and I'm not a fan of them, and most of the department is not. And so what they're doing is they're doing the bare minimum so that they can get through and do the things they want to do. For me, I stick to that textbook because any piece of text that I introduce, if it has something in it that could be deemed divisive, I want a parent to be able to say, well, this teacher, the only Black teacher read this, and this is indoctrination.
Right.
Ma'am, I'm just here so I don't get fined. That's, that's my thinking. I'm not trying to, if I wanted to indoctrinate, then they would turn their work in on time. They would come to class on time, prepared. If I'm going to indoctrinate something, those are the things I'm going to indoctrinate. So I'm just mindful of that. And he knows this. So I don't know why he's acting like it's new. Now, when I was not in that district and I was in other districts, I wasn't as mindful. But even still, as a teacher, we have different expectations. No other job, even with doctors, if you walk into a restaurant, you see a doctor drinking a glass of wine, you're not gonna think anything of it. But if you walk in there and you see your child's teacher drinking the wine, as a parent, like, well, I hope she doesn't do that during the day.
Long as it ain't during school hours.
That's when we need it. That's when we need it, though. So he knows this, and like I said, I'm gonna leave on a positive note from a good environment. I always
mess with her about that, like
right.
There was one day we was getting ready to go to the program with the intense purpose of buying some wine. I'm just gonna get some wine. She's like, hold on, let me take my shirt off. I said, hell, I go buy it.
I used to have the educator tag license plate. And so I was like, if I'm driving my car somewhere, I'm mindful of where I'm parking. When I had a Mustang, I had a bright red Mustang with an educator tag on the back. It don't see too many of those around. So the last thing I want is for some kid to say, Miss Mackey, I saw you.
And they will.
They will. They definitely will.
And at this day and time, they're recorded too. Look at that.
Right. I have one. I don't know if his mom teaches or what, but I go to Dunkin' Donuts on Fridays and Mondays.
Yes.
Set it down on Fridays and Mondays. And he'll come in and say, I saw you this morning. I saw you at Dunkin'. All right. So things like that. I haven't recognized a car that I see there. You know what I'm saying? So things like that, to be caught off guard, he knows. And once I'm out of the classroom and I can be free with everything, he also realizes he's going to be thinking, how do I rein that back in? So because I'm feisty. So you better enjoy this.
Loose cannon. Set on.
All right. So look at you. You got us all off task. That was me, really. That was me.
That whole responsibility thing.
That's a great way to hold yourself accountable.
Me. I know it was.
Great
I know it was. So for our listeners, if our listeners are feeling stuck, they're going through some things, if they are at a time of transition, a time of confusion, trying to figure things out, what let's see, 3 things can you say to them to help them today to start to get out of that unstuck feeling?
First question I will ask them, what are you grateful for in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the main key components that we forget. We get wrapped up in our bubbles and we lose sight of everything, every reason to have gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I will ask them to see what they're grateful for in this moment. Number 2, I will tell them to take at least 5 minutes to themselves to sit in silence.
Okay.
That is key for your mindset, is sitting in silence.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to own your own space. It allows you to listen to yourself without outside distractions. At least 5 minutes. And I actually recommend every morning for you to sit at least 5 minutes to yourself in silence.
Okay.
Shift your entire day. And then number 3, again, do something that makes you happy. What brings you joy? Like, don't worry about if it's something that someone else may think is weird or strange. You know, if you like to sit and feed the ducks, or, you know, if you just want to stare at the sky, like whatever brings you joy, whatever you find happiness in, do that.
Right.
Because it's not about everybody else. We are saying that we all connected, we all in this thing together as we are, but as well, it starts here. We know that it starts self, inward then outward. So do what makes you feel good.
Absolutely.
Right. Now, I do a lot of times, excuse me, when I'm on my way to work in the mornings, because I get up so early, and, you know, a lot of times I'll just sit in the bathroom for about 5 or 6 minutes. Just sit there, stare at the curtain, you know. And sometimes I might meditate, you know, just turn the music off on the way to work and just don't even think nothing. I mean, you know, it does help.
Absolutely. I'm not touching that.
Right? I apologize.
Whatever works.
Right.
Just, you know,
I know.
to, you know, reality, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Just,
bring it to reality.
You know, just trying to help people understand that you can do things in certain moments.
That is, I'm with you on that. That is correct.
That's all you had to say.
No excuse. What he's saying, no excuses.
That's right. Because people think, and I think really because I used to think that when it comes to meditation, I had to just, you know, be sitting in home, you know, just had the right tune, or sitting Indian style. I can't do Indian style nowadays, but you know, sit Indian style and all that, and I had to realize that no, you just turn the music off and just, you know, you're driving and you just, you know, you're meditating. So I realized that.
It's a matter of focus. So a lot of people think meditation is just not thinking about anything. Like, that's impossible for us not to think about it. That's impossible. So when we meditate, it just means to have focus on something. Staring out the window. You can be meditating just being in silence. You could be meditating while you're painting. It's just your focus. Where's your focus going? That's meditation.
There was one trick that I heard that helped me because I have severe adult ADHD. Like, I mean, it's bad. And so when I would try and just sit, and it was probably some of the same things, just misunderstanding what it meant to meditate. Yeah. But I would try and just sit and focus, and I couldn't do it. And so I was watching a video on YouTube, and they were talking about finding something to focus on.
Right.
And so I watched the ceiling fan, and watching the ceiling fan rotate, it was something for me to focus on. But I think that the movement of the fan also helped me focus on it, because it took a lot to rein it in. And so focusing on that kind of helped me learn how to zone out a little bit so that I could quiet my mind. So any of those tips and tricks to help calm the mind. And I realized in doing that how exhausting it is for your mind to constantly go like that. And The writing and journaling
But,
helps with some of that
found
too.
That when I'm out there, because I work on cars on the side too. I love it so much. So sometimes I just stand back and stare at the motor. Okay, well, why did they put this here, and why did they put this here? And then another manufacturer may have done something totally different, and I just gaze at it, and that's meditation.
Absolutely.
Why it takes him so long sometimes. He out there staring at the engine.
I've done meditations washing dishes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I don't use dishwash. I hand wash still, and it puts you in the zone. It puts you in the zone. And a lot of times, because we are 85% water, it sparks my creativity too when my hands are in water. So I can be washing and come lots of creative ideas. So yeah, meditation is so broad, even guided. I do guided meditations. I write my own meditations for people to do guided meditation. So it's different forms of it. I think, like you all were saying, people get caught up and don't understand. They get stuck on that one term, like meditate, free your mind. You got to be,
Right.
Yeah.
Meditation is very broad.
Right.
Well, I can do the dishes thing, but see, I meditate as I rinse the spot off, and I get that hot water on there, and I rinse that spot off,
and then put it in the dishwasher.
Put it in the dishwasher.
Yep. Yep. Yes.
Turn the button, hold the button for 3 seconds, and it start up. And then I listen to that water empty out, go into the. That's good meditation there, man.
See, he letting you know now that we're lazy.
I just meditated with the vacuum a little while ago.
You can meditate with the vacuum. I don't vacuum. I don't like the vacuum. But I realized why. There was some childhood trauma tied into it. So once I realized why I didn't, it made sense to me. But
I got thankfully with the extension cord on the vacuum too. Childhood trauma alert.
Look.
Childhood trauma alert.
One time though.
Yeah, no. But that's a whole nother.
Every now and then I'll unwrap the cord and be like, dang, I got a whooping with this one time. So, all right, for Miss Jazzy, how can people, if people like what they've heard so far, want to contact you, want to reach out to you for their specific needs, how can they get in touch with you?
Yes, I actually primarily work off of social media, so they can definitely find me on Facebook is Jazzy Goddess, one words together, then Mindset. And I'm also on Instagram and TikTok under Mindset Coach Jazzy. And if you're old school, which I don't mind at all, you can send me an email at mindsettribe@gmail.com. Right. And I'm curious to put in the work because I'm all about jumping in. I'm a straight to the point type of coach. So if you're ready, then I'm ready for you.
Okay, well, we thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful Sunday. You said it was 22 where you are now?
Yes, coach.
Oh, all right. We're going to talk about this, getting prepared for you to come on down to the South. Yeah. It's going to be 98 tomorrow and 72 the next day.
And I'll still take it.
58 after. We just looked at the weather and we have high 70s Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then Thursday is 58. And all of that sounds good to you.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Beyond I Do podcast.
Please make sure to like this episode and also subscribe to our podcast. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at the Beyond I Do podcast.
And until next time, we will holler at y'all.